This is 21-year-old Emmanuel Espinoza, and he is on his way to his mother's front door to visit for the weekend. At least that's what he told her, and she was very excited about it. But in his hand, in this video, at certain moments you can see it, he has a knife, okay? And he had his AirPods in. I'm going to pause it. We'll look at it again later. He has his AirPods in. He's listening to a Kanye West song. He's in the zone. I don't know what zone it is, because the next minute, when his mother opened the door on April 6th of 2024, around 2 p.m., super excited to have him over for the weekend. He said he wanted to come visit because he wants to visit his grandfather. She opens the door. She's on the phone to another family member, and that poor family member just heard screaming next. If this case rings a bell, you might remember it because we did a live stream when it happened, and there we watched the press conference and everything. So I'm going to link that episode below for you if you want to check it out. But if you missed it, don't worry, because we're also going to do a full recap here today. The reason I'm doing it is because I've managed to get my hands on the probable cause affidavit. And while normally, the press conferences, and so they pretty much share all the details, there's a couple of details in that PCA that's just even more shocking. I mean, this guy was clearly out to get his mother that day, and no one knows why. He has no history of substance abuse or mental illness. In fact, he was known as a genius at university, top marks, pre-med student. Everyone said, they admired him for his intelligence. So, way to go to ruin your life and, of course, take his mother away from all the kids that she used to teach. She was a second grade teacher, and that must be devastating as well for all of them to learn that their favorite teacher has now been murdered by her own son. And he is apparently the youngest out of 3 children. So can you just imagine the devastation of this family, and for what? Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a quick recap of the case. I'm going to read you the statement from the Polk County Sheriff's Office. If you're hearing Polk County, we're all thinking of Sheriff Grady Judd, and yes, indeed, he's the guy running the press conference, okay? If you don't know who he is, you're going to see him today, and maybe you'll know why we're all like, oh, yes, we like this guy, because he arrests so many people, and his press conferences are pretty epic. I don't know how you feel about it. I know, it's always divided opinions with no matter who one is talking about. As I say that, also remember, if you like my content, please like and share, and make sure you subscribe so you become part of this community. Thank you so much for tuning in today as we uncover what the hell happened here. Now, he's already been arraigned. He's in the Polk County Jail. He's being held on no bond. And we're going to get into all those details from that probable cause affidavit. But first, let's do a recap. Then we'll read the PCA. Then we'll watch the press conference together so that it's all in one place. You don't have to go all over the place. If you do want to see the live stream that we did and see the interaction that I had with the community and all the comments and everything, by all means, go check it out. But let's first get into what this case is about, who the defendant is, who his mother was. Shame, man. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's first read the statement from April 8th of 2024 from the Polk County Sheriff's Office. I'm putting all my sources, all the links and everything in the description box for you. So Emmanuel Espinoza brutally murders his own mother at her home in Frostproof. Media contact is Carrie Hortzman, administrator. The Polk County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit is investigating the brutal murder of 46-year-old Elvia Espinoza by her 21-year-old son, Emmanuel, who was a 4th-year pre-med student at the University of Florida at the time. On Saturday, April 6th of 2024, Emmanuel left Gainesville around 11 a.m. that morning and came to Polk County to spend time with his family. He arrived at Elvia's home in Frostproof around 2 p.m. When she answered the door, he used his pocket knife to repeatedly stab her until she died. He then called 911 and confessed. So it's not like this guy just made a run for it. He literally called 911 and confessed. He then called 911 and confessed. He told detectives that she annoyed him, and he decided on the drive south to kill her. Okay, what? So when deputies arrived at the scene, Emmanuel was immediately taken into custody and booked into the Polk County Jail. He's been charged with first-degree murder, and he's being held on no bond. He's actually got a charge of count 1, which is tampering with physical evidence, and count 2 is first-degree murder. When I first saw count 1, it says, I think it's a $5,000 bond, and I'm like, what? But then count 2 is first-degree murder, and he's being held on no bond. Thank goodness, because he sounds like a danger to society. If you can just casually decide on a drive, well, yep, I'm going to kill my mother today because she's a little bit annoying. What? He actually said that he thought about it for a long time, so that's pretty scary as well. And honestly, I don't even know. I was going to say, what a coward to call his mother and say, hey, can I come and visit for the weekend? And she's like, yes, I would love to see you. I haven't seen you in ages. And then to do this, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, surprise, here I am to get, I don't know what, revenge or whatever it is. No, it's like pretending to surprise her with something nice and then really surprising her with the worst ever, right? Okay, when deputies arrived at the scene, Emmanuel was taken to custody, booked into the Polk County Jail, so that's where he's at. Elvia was a second-grade teacher at Ben Hill Griffin Elementary School in Frostproof. Sheriff Grady Judd gave details about the investigation in 2 separate news conferences. First news conference and second news conference. Today, we're just going to watch the second one because we did watch the first one together already, and it's when he was pretty much standing outside the house and just telling everyone what happened, why they were dispatched, and that they'll let us know more details in the next news conference. And so we watched that one. But we're going to watch that one again together today. It's about 20 minutes long, just so that you know everything is timestamped for you. As you know, if you ever watch any of my live streams, you could just go to the comments section, and the pinned comment, the very top comment, is usually from me, and it's because it's got timestamps in it, which means chapters for the video, so you could just easily navigate through that and see what you want to watch again or not. Okay, but before we look at that press conference, let's first read the probable cause affidavit. Okay, so this document is only 4 pages long, so let's have a look here. Polk County Clerk of Court, this was 04/08/2024 at 5:55 a.m. And the office is in Winter Haven, Florida. You guys know I like all the details, right? And the submitting member you could see there as well. And so this is in the city of Frostproof unincorporated in Polk County, Florida. Approximately 14:24, so 2:24 p.m. in the vicinity of Frostproof, Polk County, Florida. Espinoza Emmanuel. So his nickname was Manny. This guy's 5'5". His date of birth is 6/12/2002, and he's about 150 pounds. Okay, and so let's look at this probable cause affidavit here. They say victim Elvia Espinoza. Okay, so probable cause, let me just zoom in a little bit more for you. On Saturday, April 6th of 2024, at approximately 14:26 hours, so 2:26 p.m., Polk County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to the single-family residence located at regarding a stabbing. The response was prompted by a 911 call from Emmanuel Espinoza, hereinafter referred to as the defendant. The defendant stated during the 911 call, I just killed my mother, and further indicated that he killed her by stabbing her. Deputy Sheriff Self, number 9762, was the first unit to arrive on the scene. Deputy Self approached the front of the residence and observed the defendant exiting the front door. The defendant's entire body was covered in blood, and he spontaneously stated, I just killed... Now, I wonder what he's saying there. Why did they redact it? Is it, I just killed my mother? I just killed Elvia? Additional deputies arrived on scene and made entry into the residence. Deputies discovered large amounts of blood trailing throughout the residence, which led deputies to discovering the body of, thereafter referred to as the victim. The victim was face down in a pool of blood with multiple stab wounds, obviously deceased. As a result, detectives with the Polk County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit responded to the scene and assumed the investigation. During the investigation, detectives executed a search warrant on the residence. During a further examination of the scene, the victim's body was examined. The victim had multiple penetrating stab wounds to the head, back, chest, and neck. Detectives also discovered blood in the kitchen sink and a pocket knife with apparent blood. The defendant was interviewed at the Polk County Sheriff's Office Southeast District Substation. Post Miranda, the defendant identified the victim as his mother. The defendant stated on Saturday, April 6th of 2024, he left his residence in Gainesville, Florida, to come to the victim's residence for a pre-planned visit. Okay, a premeditated visit. The defendant stated that he was going to be staying at the victim's residence to visit family that reside in the area. 1 hour prior to arriving, he made the decision to kill the victim. The defendant stated that he's been conspiring to kill the victim for a long time, but just had not had the courage. I don't think it takes courage. I think it takes, what would we call it? It's not courage. Okay, anyway. He said he just had not had the courage to carry out the act until now. The defendant stated that his motivation behind killing the victim was as a result of the victim annoying him when he was younger. The defendant further stated that he loved the victim but still decided to kill her. That's not love. It's like, no, I really had a good relationship with her. Yep, I loved her. Just decided to kill her. Oh, my word. The defendant then described, so here's the trigger warning, the sequence of events leading up to killing the victim. The defendant arrived at the victim's residence at approximately 1400 hours, so like 2 p.m., broad daylight. The defendant then put his AirPod Pros in his ears and put on a hip-hop song called No Church in the Wild by Jay-Z and Kanye West and turned the volume up. I know a lot of people will want to blame the song, but it's really not the song's fault. It's just always interesting psychologically to think, well, why would he listen to that song? What are the lyrics of that song? We've looked it up before in that live stream. I don't know. You know, it's not about the song. It's more about the psychology of the person doing this. As we say, Jeffrey Dahmer used to love watching The Exorcist and particularly used to like rock to and fro and chant in like Latin. And that's what Tracy Edwards, the survivor, the final person that was in that apartment before he was arrested, said. So the thing is, it's not about The Exorcist being particularly bad or creating killers. Oh, no. Same as the song. You know what I mean? It's just interesting to know what they were watching or listening to and what they were doing. So anyway, he was listening to No Church in the Wild by Jay-Z and Kanye West, and he turned the volume up. The defendant then armed himself with his silver folding pocket knife and approached the victim's front door. The defendant attempted to enter the front door, however, it was locked. The defendant knocked on the front door, and the victim opened the door for the defendant, his own mother. The defendant stated he then, just immediately, repeatedly stabbed the victim in the stomach. Okay. The victim attempted to run. So these are some of the new details we know, right? The victim attempted to run from the defendant, and he chased after her into the kitchen area of the home, repeatedly stabbing her as she ran. The defendant stated that the victim tried to fight back by trying to take the knife from him. So he began to stab the victim more in the chest and neck. The victim tried to get up and flee, but fell once again to the floor as the defendant continued to stab. The victim, now, this gets so psycho, oh my word. The victim ended up lying face down on the floor, at which time, okay, are you ready? The defendant cut the back of the victim's shirt open and began to stab the victim repeatedly in the back until her hands stopped moving. Damn, there's a lot of rage that was expressed that day. What the heck was going on there? So after this, the defendant then went to the kitchen sink, washed off the knife that he used to stab the victim, and his hands. At this time, the defendant stated that he called 911 because of what he did. It's almost like he's a little bit proud of it or something. The defendant is a pre-med student at the University of Florida and stated that he used his knowledge of the human body to stab the victim in specific places, such as the chest, in order to make sure that he killed the victim. Okay, I think you could just watch movies and know that, but all right, buddy, you used your qualifications. Wow, what a way to use that, though. Okay, the defendant stated that he knew if he stabbed the victim in or around the heart, blood would not be able to be pumped throughout the body and the victim would eventually bleed out. All right. Naughty badge for you. Is that a universal saying or is that South African? Naughty badge? I don't know, let me know. Detectives later made contact with the victim's redacted, I think, daughter, who owns the residence where the victim resides. They were on the phone with the victim at the time that the defendant attacked her. During a phone interview, they stated that, it's not the daughter. During a phone interview, he stated that he heard the victim say, "I think Manny is here." That's Emmanuel Espinoza, right? It should be noted, Manny is short for Emmanuel, the name of the defendant. They heard the victim open the front door and then heard the victim begin to scream for help. You know how traumatic that call memory is, just listening in on that. Wow. And even his mother being on a call, he didn't wait for her to be off the call or something. It's just immediately as she opened the door, he started stabbing her. My goodness. So they say, I lost my place. Hold on one second. Okay, then heard the victim began to scream for help. Redacted, who is currently out of state, then accessed the interior surveillance cameras for the residence and observed the defendant at the kitchen sink washing his hands. Oh, that must be scary footage. The defendant was then observed walking to the camera and attempting to disable it by turning the camera. Okay. Detectives obtained a copy of the video, which corroborated with redacted and the defendant's statements. In video clips provided to detectives, the victim can be heard screaming, "Manny, Manny." While screaming the defendant's name, a thumping or slapping sound believed to be the defendant stabbing the victim can be heard multiple times as the victim continues to make moaning and groaning noises until there's silence. Briefly after this clip, the defendant is observed at the kitchen sink wearing sunglasses, washing blood off his arms and hands before walking to the camera and turning the camera away as described above. Did he think the sunglasses would make him invisible or what? Based upon the facts and evidence obtained, there is probable cause to show that the defendant violated this Florida State Code 78204, first-degree murder, by killing the victim from a premeditated design. Furthermore, the defendant violated FSS 91813, tampering with physical evidence, by washing DNA evidence from the knife used to kill the victim. The defendant was arrested and transported to the Polk County Sheriff's Office Processing Center without incident. That was on the 6th of April of 2024. Now, since then, he has been assigned a public defender whose name is Howard Dimmick, Dimmick is, I think, how you would say it. Dimmick, Dimmig. Howard Dimmick II. So he has a public defender now. And I'll keep you posted on this case. Continuously monitoring, when will he next be in court? What's the next thing that's happening for him? His mother, by the way, was only 46 years old. And I mean, he was only 21 years old. So let's see, will he eventually just plead guilty? Is he going to trial? At this point, it'll be going forward to trial. And so let's keep an eye on that one. He was arraigned on 5/7/2024. So I think that would be the 7th of May of 2024. That was at 8:15 a.m. So that's what we know so far. So now that we've, read through this probable cause affidavit and done a little overview, let's watch that press conference either again. If you already watched it with me and you don't want to watch it, then I'll see you in the next video. If you haven't seen it before, let's watch this press conference together where they gave some details before I got this PCA. This has got a few more details, but it's always interesting to hear what the sheriff says. By the way, they said somewhere there in the documents or in the articles that it happened on this Deer Road area in Frostproof. So I think this house is the house. We're going to see some of that ring cam footage that they show at the press conference of him walking up to the door, and they actually pause it and show the knife. So this is just a quick little bit of map time here. If you don't know where it is, this is Reedy Lake is what that is called. Let me just turn off some of the details there. And so let's just zoom out so that we can see where we are. There we go. We're in Florida. Here's Orlando, so it's south of Orlando. Here's Tampa, so it's east of Tampa. Just to orientate yourself. So somewhere in here by Reedy Lake, here's Lake Arbuckle. There's an area called Frostproof. And actually, if we go from, let's go from Gainesville, Florida. Okay, the drive would be how long? 3 hours? This guy took a 3-hour drive. What? 3-hour drive basically straight to jail. Oh my goodness. I mean, so that would mean he was driving for about 2 hours thinking about it. And then he decided within the last hour, this is what he was going to do. My word. Okay, time for the press conference.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with me this afternoon. I've got two issues that I want to talk with you about, and they're both really, really tragic. First off, I want to introduce you to Elvia Espinoza. She's 46. She was a teacher at Ben Hill Griffin Elementary School, a second grade teacher. She had 3 children. She's described as the perfect mother. She was a beloved teacher in the Frostproof area. She had 3 children, and her 3 children were remarkable. And then I want to introduce you to her youngest child, Emmanuel Espinoza. He's 21. He's known as Manny. He was the 2020 Frostproof valedictorian with a 4.5 GPA average.
Now, as you guys know, I'm from South Africa, living in Switzerland, or if you didn't know, now you know. So when I asked a lot of Americans that are part of my audience, so a 4.5 GPA, is that high? They were like, that is so extraordinarily high. That's the highest you could possibly go. He was super smart. Look at this guy. I mean, he definitely has a little angry look about him here, right? Very angry. Don't know what's going on in that head of his, but okay, continuing.
He was quoted at his high school graduation by saying, "High school was just one of the chapters out of the many we will have throughout our lives. We still have so much to accomplish in the future that will define what kind of legacy the class of 2020 will leave behind." That's right. He was described as being a genius, of being remarkably brilliant.
Before anyone says, I know, we've got the snark. Have you got your snarky pants on? Well, it's not so genius to do what he did, right? But there have been genius serial killers, genius killers in the past. So I don't think intelligence is necessarily a sign of what one might do in the sinister department. But honestly, this guy just threw his entire future away. Really makes one wonder, why? Why would he do that?
He was a pre-med student in his 4th year at the University of Florida. The next chapter of his life was to be a medical doctor. And interestingly enough, he was the youngest of 3 children. Mom called on Saturday morning and said, "Manny, I haven't seen you in a while." They would text about every other day. "I'd like to come up to Gainesville to see you." And he said, "Well, Mom, I'm visiting grandfather this weekend. He has an event, so I'll be down your way." She said, "That's great. Why don't you stay with me at the house?" And he said, "Sure, I'd love to." He arrived at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And we're going to show a clip. He had put pods in his ear, and he was playing No Church in the Wow when he drove up to the house and knocked on the front door. But before we go further, listen to this. This is the music he was listening to.
Okay, so you can look up the song No Church in the Wild by Jay-Z and Kanye West. They don't actually play it here because YouTube is so strict, with copyright for music and things. So I think that's why this portion is probably silent, just so you know. So we couldn't hear the lyrics there, but you can look them up if you want. No Church in the Wild is what the song is called.
That was the music in his ear when he walked up to the front door. He said that he had just been angry or not liked his mother for years and years. When we said, do you love her? He said, oh yeah, I love her. Do y'all get along? Yeah, 8 out of 10 we get along. But I've wanted to kill her for years, and I made up my mind as I drove from Gainesville, today is the day. And he then showed up at the front door. Now we got a video clip of a Ring camera, and you can see the knife as he approaches the front door.
Yeah, I'm gonna move myself over.
Notice behind his back. There's the knife. He tried to open the door, and the door was locked, so he knocked on the door, and his beautiful mother was so excited to see her son, she opened the door. The second she opened the door, he charged in and started stabbing her. He made the statement that he knew where to stab her for maximum effect because of his biology classes. We have another audio that we're not going to play from the inside of the house where she's screaming, Manny, 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 and he's not saying one word. He stabbed her in excess of 70 times.
70 times. I don't know. Do you know how much that is? I mean, if you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's a lot. Count to 70 like that. It is scary. Sure.
He once again told us he loved his mom. As she tried to get up off of the floor, he stabbed her some more. He said he noticed her hands were still moving, so he stabbed her some more. And then he told the detectives in his confession that he had cut his hand on the knife while stabbing his mother. And as he's standing at the kitchen sink washing himself off and the knife, he wanted to ask his mother for the Neosporin for the cut on his hand. But he noticed she was dead.
What?
He immediately called 911 and confessed, and we have a clip of that for you.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, tell me exactly what happened.
I have someone.
Okay, I've got help on the way. Stay on the line. What? Stay on the line with me, okay? I've got help on the way for you, okay? Okay, sir. Okay, I want you, yes, sir, I want you to take everything out of your pockets, and I want you to keep your hands out of your pockets, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how did this happen?
I opened the door and I stabbed my mom.
He said he stabbed his mom. Now, I want you to understand, this lady who was a school teacher for 20 years actually moved around and taught at different schools while her children were in school so she could be close to them. I want you to understand she was really the perfect mom. I want you to understand that she was very proud of his accomplishments in going to the University of Florida, graduating #1 in his high school class. And then I want you to understand that he viciously murdered her and confessed to it. We asked him, are you on any drugs or alcohol? No. He said, I've wanted to do this for some time, but I didn't have the nerve to do it. So I just made up my mind that today was the day. And it was. Quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what else to say about this. It is one of the most bizarre murders that we've dealt with in a very long time. And when you see that he left a family behind that loved him, a mom that just worshiped her children. And at this very moment, she should have been in Ben Hill Griffin Elementary creating a future and educating our second graders. It is incomprehensible as to what happened that day. Before I go on to the second event, are there any questions about this?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, it really makes no sense when you hear this story. Is there any history of mental health issues?
No history of alcohol abuse, drug abuse, no history of mental health abuse or needs, no history of Baker Acts, no arrest history, no problems at all. He was known as kind of being an introvert, kind of a quiet guy. Zero issues.
No 911 calls to the house?
No 911 calls about him. No argument with her. She wanted to come see him because she hadn't seen him in a while. They text every day, every other day. They stay in constant contact. No issues over money. She would send him money to make sure she appropriately funded his ability to go to college and enjoy the college life. And no argument that day. He never said a word to her.
Did he say she beat him in the past or any type
Nothing.
of...
Zero.
And there's...
He described her as a good mom, that she loved him and he loved her. And when we said, well, how well did you get along with your mom? And he says, 8 out of 10. It is the strangest event we've seen in a very long time.
I know we're trying to make sense of something.
I think I mentioned this in the live stream before. It's almost like one could speculate that he had this intrusive thought the whole time, like something going around and around his mind. And I would wonder, I don't want to talk to him, but if one could talk to him, I would wonder if he felt any relief after that, if those thoughts went away. How does he feel now? Is he remorseful? That would just be interesting. If there's any family watching and you want to reach out, just please know that I do protect all my sources. I keep all my sources anonymous. So you are welcome to email me, grizzlytruecrime@gmail.com.
It doesn't make sense, but the annoying or getting on, any elaboration on that, or just normal mom stuff?
He made one statement that sometimes mom talks out loud to herself. She'll ask herself questions and then answer her question. He said, that's going on for years. Well, who doesn't talk out loud? Oh, I forgot the keys. Oh, there they are. He couldn't even seek out, because our detectives asked him, like, come on, man, why? I just, I've thought about killing her for years.
Did he?
I would love to see that police interview. Sometimes they release things to the public before the trial, sometimes not. Florida, luckily, does sometimes, because, for example, we've seen Sarah Boone's entire police interview in her trial, as we know, has not started yet. It's been delayed millions of times, so I'm going to request it. If I ever do get the police interview, the full 911 call, anything else, any footage, like that sounds pretty scary though. Him at the kitchen sink, but you know what I mean? Anything through a FOIA request, then I absolutely will share it with you.
Feel like she was a source of pressure on him to get good grades, and
He didn't express any of that.
Have you guys reached out to UF to see if there's any reports that they've gotten about him, or maybe from a roommate?
So far, we have gone back and searched his room at UF, and we don't see any information there, any notes, any communications that are indicative of this conduct or planning of such a murder. And obviously, we will, as part of the follow-up investigation, as you understand, this happened just Saturday afternoon, and we're still in the preliminary stages of the investigation. But I think that's what makes it so difficult for any of us to understand, is you've got this wonderful mom And she's not only wonderful for her family, for her children, but you've also got this mom that has spent years teaching and is so well loved in the community. So it's very frustrating to all of us. The next.
Okay, now Sheriff Grady Judd talks about a separate issue, so we've completed the press conference now about this case. Now check this update out. This morning, before filming this video for you, I was looking up when's his next court date, and then I noticed they said state to seek the death penalty against the man accused of stabbing mother more than 70 times. So this will be a death penalty case? Oh my word. Okay, so according to Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, Emmanuel Espinoza told authorities that he wanted to kill his mother for years because she got on my nerves. Frostproof, Florida. When Elvia Espinoza opened the door to her Frostproof home, she was expected to greet her 21-year-old son. Instead, he viciously stabbed her more than 70 times, killing her. Now, Florida state prosecutors say that they will seek the death penalty for Emmanuel Espinoza, a pre-med student at the University of Florida. Documents filed Thursday from the 10th Judicial Circuit Court stated the state's intent to pursue the highest penalty in this case. On Friday, he's set to appear in court for a status hearing of his case, court records show. Now, this was from May still. I don't have updates right now for June, but this was like mid-May, May 17th. Whoa, Emmanuel is charged with first-degree murder in the death of his 46-year-old mother, Elvira. She was a second-grade teacher at Ben Hill Griffin Jr. Elementary in Frostproof. On Saturday, April 6th, the rest we know. This is now the timeline of everything that we went through. Quotes from the press conference, of course. There's the press conference that we just watched together. But yes, the state is seeking the death penalty. Oh my goodness. So let me know what you think about this case. My thoughts are that in doing some courses on coercive control and domestic violence and all of that, what I learned was actually helpful for me, because those of us with a little bit of PTSD might feel when we go out into the world, it's all people-y, we might feel threats, right? And there's often red flags walking around, sure, but something like 80 to 90% of the time, females are murdered by someone they know. So that helped reduce my anxiety, of course, outside the house. I'm okay inside the house. Mr. Grizzly is very nice. But my point is, you see, that's what this case is like, a statistic of there's no way that this beautiful mother of 3 children, a second-grade teacher, if she ever felt like, oh my word, like what is happening out there, like her own son, there's no way that anyone would just guess that. You kind of have to, be watching and reading a lot of true crime like many of us do, to even know that that possibility exists. That oftentimes in true crime, it's those closest to you that are the danger. That's scary. So, okay, not to scare you, but your own family members or sons, daughters, siblings, uncles, whoever. It's just good to know as well, because as you know, here on this channel, my main focus is to try to help us all either deal with our trauma or feel more safe, to learn from these cases as much as we possibly can. That's my number one question when I'm covering cases is, what can we learn from this? And for me, well, what I've learned is that the possibility exists that someone's own son can say, hey, can I come stay with you for the weekend? Or, it sounds like Elvia invited him, like, you can come stay with me. And he's like, sure. And just like that, he could reward her kindness and everything she's ever done for him with a knife. I mean, it is so shocking. So I'm sending so much love to Elvia's family and friends. I mean, imagine her other 2 children. I think she has a daughter and one other son. This is so devastating. I can't even begin to imagine it. I will keep you posted on this case. Let's see what happens here, or when the trial will eventually be, when it will be decided. As I say, he's already got a public defender. He's already been arraigned. He's already had a status hearing. So as the wheels of justice keep turning, usually quite slowly, I'll keep you posted on this case. Please like and share, not because you like the topic or you like what he did. Maybe you like the way that I present true crime. Maybe you want others to see this information. Like and share. There's some hashtag suggestions in the description box for you. And I hope that you have subscribed, that I'll see you again in the next video. If not, thank you for making it to the end. If you've been here for a while, then If I look a little different, it's because I got a new camera. I built my channel from 0 to 300,000 subscribers on a $99 webcam. So I got a little upgrade, and thank you so much to everyone that subscribes to this channel, and especially all my patrons and members that support the work that I do so that I could actually make this little investment into a new camera. So thank you so much, and I will see you again in the next one. Stay safe.